I have something very exciting today, and that is a comparison between the shot quality on a Flair 58 and a Linea Mini. A few days ago, I had the opportunity to go to a different town for a work trip, and near that town was one of my friends from college. And my friend from college had a Linea Mini, which comes in the cost of $5,900 US before taxes and before any of the wooden accents that he had on it. And I brought along with me my Flair 58 Plus. In the base level, Flair 58 comes in at only $580. So we put these head to head and we tested shots, both of them, both getting our opinions on each of those, and we tried to do our best to dial them in very, very similar from machine to machine. So I want to talk a little bit about that and my experience with it and what I thought was better and why you should go one way or the other. But before I do that, I just want to say welcome to Kavin's Coffee Corner. This channel is designed to help you choose the gear you want to brew with at home. You find a lot of reviews and comparisons on here, and I'm spending a lot of time and effort and energy in the year of 2024 making videos, so I hope that you would like and subscribe. That really would help me produce more content. If you're looking at purchasing anything, if you use the link below, I make a small commission that funds this channel. And lastly, I have a Patreon account, so if you really want to support me and you want a chance to win free gear, find that in the description below. And let's get into it. I've had the Flair 58 since it came out, and I've had every single Flair product. I did receive a discount on the Flair 58, but other than that, every single Flair I paid full amount for, and I do not really get any benefit whether I give them a good review or a bad review on it. I've never personally owned the Linea Mini. It's very expensive. I did have that brief moment to test it. So a couple key obvious differences between it is this is a fully manual machine, the Flair 58. And what that means is you have to lift up this lever and you have to pull it down, and that adjusts the pressure of it. So you simply, same thing for the Linea Mini, you fill your portafilter with your coffee, you put a puck screen on this, you don't have to on the Linea Mini, and then you'll preheat this. It has a little wire that comes out of it, and you'll pour water, and at the top of it, you will simply lock this in here, and then you'll pull up the handle and push the water through, creating whatever kind of profile you want. So the interesting thing about this machine is it has this little pressure gauge here on the side. That pressure gauge basically allows you to manipulate how much pressure your shot is going to be. So in other words, I can push this lever down at 1 bar and pre-infuse for 30 seconds if I wanted to, and I could ramp it up to 6 bars for 10 seconds, and then all the way up to 9 bars at whatever time I want. I have a lot of freedom and a lot of adjustability with this, and that gives it a lot of power. So in order to be fair in the comparison, what I did is I pulled a duplicate shot as close as I could to what the Linea Mini was pulling. For those of you who don't know what a Linea Mini is, it is a very, very expensive machine that you could use in a cafe. So it's rated to be commercial grade use. It's a dual boiler machine, which means you can steam milk and brew a shot at the same time. It is incredibly powerful. It was the best steam wand arm that I've ever used and was super quick and super fast and gave great results. Everything on that machine felt incredibly built well and felt incredibly premium, especially the wooden accents that were installed on it, but that is a substantial additional price on top of it. I think it's around $800 just to get those wooden accents on that machine. So the main difference here is this one you get a lot of control with. You have a little bit more work. You have to preheat it. You have to pour water in from a kettle. The Linea Mini you turn on, you wait for it to preheat, and it's good to go. And it's very, very quick. It's very, very efficient. There's not very much things that steps that you have to take in the process outside of tamping. You don't have to pull a lever. You just move a little lever on the top, and it starts your shot and ends your shot, which means you don't have a lot of control on it, but you have an incredible amount of consistency on it. So it typically is going to just ramp straight up to 9 bars and then pull a 9-bar shot until you're done and you shut it off. You can manipulate that a little bit and get some control of the flow rate, but it'll just do flat 9 bars or whatever you want to set your machine to. You can change the temperature of it on the side. There's a lot of videos on the Linea Mini if you want to know more about it. I just had a brief experience with it. But the real reason what interests me is when you have a manual machine or a manual anything, it takes more work, but it provides a better value for the most sake. So if you buy a $100 hand grinder, that is going to give you better results than a $100 electric grinder because it doesn't theoretically have the motor. And that's kind of what Flair did. It has some electricity because it does preheat this little part here, but it removes the boilers. It removes a lot of the things that can break and a lot of the maintenance that you have to do. But as a result of that, you have a little bit more work to do because you have to pour the water, you have to purge after every shot, but it's not like a crazy amount. And as a result of that, they could shove the cost way down. This is the most expensive Flair. This is the Flair 58 Plus, which comes in around like $680 because it changed out the wooden accents. Its functionality is the exact same as the $580 one, and they go all the way down to $100. So you have a lot of variety here, but this is kind of the flagship. So we took this and we pulled 18 grams of a decaf blend from Archetype Coffee because it was late at night and we didn't want to go through a ton of shots. So probably 8 or 9 shots and went back to back, headed at them. Did the exact same thing. I used the Turin DF64 grinder, which is a single dosing grinder. Did the same WDT, tamped at the same force. Tried to remove as many different variables as possible, and we just went side by side and comparing the shots. And this is where I think things are crazy. It was difficult to tell the difference. Now I want you to think about that for a little bit. This Flair 58 cost 10% of the Linea Mini. But when you pull shots side by side, now we are not experts, me or my friend. We both enjoy coffee. We both have kind of ran deep into the coffee world, but we haven't worked as baristas. We haven't been trained in any professional way. But we are, I would say both of us were probably above the average coffee drinker, but that doesn't mean we're experts by any means. But we had a hard time telling the difference between the shots. We both felt at the end of the day, the Linea Mini gave just like a hair amount better quality shots than the Flair. I don't really know how else to explain that, but that was just at the straight 9-bar things. We can control more with the Flair, which we didn't really go into too much. So why would you buy a Linea Mini? If you can get this for 10% of the cost of a Linea Mini, why would you buy one? One, because it's going to last a long time. Two, it's incredibly great to use. There's something that comes a lot with espresso that a lot of people don't talk about is it isn't just about the quality of the shots, but it's about the experience using it. And the Flair, personally, out of all my machines that I have, I don't like the purging of the shots, and that means you have to have a second cup, and it's just a little bit more work and a little bit more of a hassle. Not a ton. This is being really, really nitpicky here. And you don't have that with the Linea Mini. You can purge straight into the drip tray, drain it out. You can plumb in water. You don't have to pour water in there. You don't have to purge a second shot through the group head. So it takes a lot of that stuff out, which basically any machine that has a boiler in it would do the same thing. This one has dual boilers. So if you're making a lot of drinks and you might want to have like a little coffee bar at some point, a Linea Mini might want to be what you have. Or if you want a very, very nice quality machine that's a very, very pleasing look to your eye in your kitchen and you have the space and you have the means, I would still say go for it. It steams incredibly well. It works incredibly well. There was no complaints with the Linea Mini outside. It doesn't have a no burn steam one arm, and I forgot that because my Rocket at home does. So my hand got a little burnt when I grabbed the steam wand arm, thinking that it was insulated and it wasn't. But that's a very, very small thing. But when it comes to what I'm saying and what I want you to get out of this video is the fact that you don't have to go out and spend $6,000 to get good quality espresso at home. You don't have to spend $6,000 to go out and rival the espresso that you would get at your local cafe or local coffee shop. Even a special coffee shop, even a high-end coffee shop and a really, really good coffee shop, you don't have to really fight that too much because you can do it at a very low price. And yes, this is still almost $600 and that is still a lot of money. But when it comes to the price range of this, you're comparing things like the Breville Barista Express that comes in at $700, but it comes with a not super great built-in grinder with it. This is cheaper. Yes, you do need a boiling source of water, but most people have a kettle or of some sort, or if you really want to get into it, you can put it on the stove, or you can buy a $20 kettle from Amazon and it will get the job done because you don't need precise control and temperature measuring with this. But overall, if you have a Flair, don't be necessarily feeling like you need to upgrade unless it's becoming really inconvenient. Unless you really want milk dreams, with obviously this cannot steam milk, but you can buy alternatives for that like the Nano Foamer Pro, which I'll be giving away one of those soon, and that will just steam milk for you automatically. Or you can get a Bellman stovetop steamer, or you can spend like $300 and get a Breville Bambino and just use it as a steam wand arm. Even though it's a little overkill, it's still an under $1,000 setup, and it might look a little different, but that is interesting to me. 600, like I knew the Flair was good, but I was always really curious on how it really stacked up with the more expensive machines. And the Linea Mini, it's pretty darn close. Pretty darn close, but still just a shy, small hair, less quality shots that you get out of the Flair. Not a huge difference. For those of you who are wondering, again, 18 grams, 36 out. I aimed for 30 seconds, and that was mainly just to have really good consistency between the shots. I probably could have dialed it in a little bit better, but time limits, coffee limits, all that stuff that goes into it, because this was a very short moment of time that I got, and I used the Flair standard tamper on both of them, used the WD-T tool by Subminimal. The flick is what I used on that, and I used again the same grinder, the DF64V, which is a phenomenal grinder, great grinder, and did a great job comparing this, held up well for all of that. It was a fun experience, great opportunity. Thanks, Joey, for letting me come over and make a mess in your kitchen for a few hours. It was a joy to see you. Yeah, don't necessarily feel like you need to upgrade. You get very marginal gains after you buy something like a Flair. It's more on the convenience side of things and not so much on the quality side of things. But both the Flair and both the Linea Mini felt incredible to use and felt like premium products. So thank you so much for watching.